Everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of This Woman Can. I am delighted to have a guest with me this week, Ms. LaTonia Pouncey. And LaTonia is a career and workplace expert who helps clients and individuals discover what's possible in their workforce and careers. She's the president and CEO of the Pouncey Group LLC, comprised of TalentMixx Solutions, a leading HR consulting, career development, and recruiting firm based out of New York and New Jersey. And LaTonia has spent a lot of her career, working in aerospace and defense, healthcare, staffing and recruiting, and the transportation industry. She's been recognized, shall I say, as a top executive in corporate diversity and a top 10 influential woman in global diversity. So I am delighted to have Tonya talking with us today about negotiations, especially for the mature woman. So LaTonia, welcome to This Woman Can.
Janice, thank you so much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I'm going to go straight into it, if you don't mind. As you know, I've been talking a lot about money and finances, especially for women over a certain age, particularly mature women over 40. So the first question I have for you, LaTonya, is what are the Pacific salary negotiation challenges that women over 40, maybe in their up to the 60s, can sometimes face that differ from the younger market, from younger men or women?
Sure. Thank you so much for the question. And feel free to call me Tanya or LT, whatever you're
Fantastic.
comfortable with.
Thank you for that.
Yes, people do call me Tanya for short, so no worries. This is a topic that I love talking about. It's part of HR career development. Um, Women face a number of biases and misconceptions, as we all know, right? There's so many gender biases, but when it comes to the workplace and salary negotiation, oftentimes women who are over 40, 50, and in the 60 age range, often sometimes can be considered as less ambitious, as well as they are nearing retirement. And as a result, corporations may feel less inclined to invest in them long term. Another bias and misconception is that oftentimes organizations are targeting younger employees, so younger women, younger men, and they feel like the younger generation brings fresher ideas, thoughts, and solutions, completely setting aside your more mature women who are definitely experienced, who have a successful track record, and can certainly do the job and do the job well.
Yes.
And one of the other things is being seen as someone who has outdated skill sets, particularly in technology. So when it comes to social media, when it comes to different softwares and programs, and one of the biggest softwares and innovations that have come out, as we all know, is AI, right? So really being able to stay on top of trends and best practices can be misconceptions. And they are definitely misconceptions, because many women who are in the workforce, particularly mature women, they're successful in their careers because they have been able to stay on top of the trends.
Absolutely.
And understand the different technologies, innovations that are coming down the pipeline, understanding, how to take on those additional skill sets and learning opportunities to not only do the job, but to exceed at doing the job and teach others at doing the job and being successful as well. So those are some of the key misconceptions and biases that women face. But understanding those challenges, first and foremost, is very important, and going into the negotiation process successfully.
Fantastic. And I just want to add to that, because I'm glad you said about the fact we've had to navigate technologies, because my generation, I'll put myself there. I'm on the cusp of Boomer and Gen X. The last year of the Boomer generation, and we probably saw the most technological advances, the most of any generation.
Yeah,
Because I definitely know when I was growing up, I didn't have internet. I didn't even have cable. We had three channels. We didn't have mobile phones. So we didn't have laptops. So there's
absolutely.
so much I have seen as a generation that I've had to learn to adapt to. So
Mhm.
that there from technology, don't get me wrong, sometimes it may take us a little longer now because we're taking it all in. But I don't know if that's a case of how it's also taught, or the expectation is that we won't know. We won't know how to adapt, so we're overlooked. But I digress. I digress.
No, it's a great point that you make because it's very important for women to be aware of these biases so you
Mm.
can know how to attack them. And when it
Yes.
comes to the technology piece and the innovations, it is so important because it is the one of the number one biases that women can face.
Yeah.
And it's important because just to the point that you made, women who, and including myself, who have gone through and have seen these technologies come through and advance, right? I know so many women who are, over 40 and in their 50s who can text faster than any
Yes.
other person. Okay. I know women who are over their 40s and 50s who can relate to AI, who are open to AI, who understands the prompts of AI,
Yeah.
who knows how to manage AI and really make it work efficiently for their business, their
Yeah.
employer,
Yeah.
um, and really just advance the day-to-day operations, of an organization, utilizing just a number of different types of, softwares and tools, whether it's, the platforms that we sit on and meet with today, like Zoom, Teams, or some other software platform. There's just a number of different
Yeah.
technologies and tools. And as you
Yeah.
mentioned, there are so many different phones. We know between Apple and Android, there's a new
Mm.
phone that's put
Yeah.
out every year, right?
Yeah.
And there's different features that come with those phones. Same thing with TVs, and then being able to connect them and the different laptops and
Yeah.
computers.
Yeah.
I myself, you name it, I pretty much have it. Okay. And
Mm.
so many others who have the same, a
Yeah.
desktop, the MacBook, the
Yeah.
the phones, the watches, and we know how to make them all connect
Yeah.
so we can do
Yeah.
our day-to-day jobs
Yeah.
more efficiently, not just for us, but our own businesses as well as corporations that we work in.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So we talked about these women having a level of experience because we've been around a lot longer. We've navigated some of those challenges. So how can that mature woman, how can she leverage her experience and the skills to strengthen negotiation position?
Yes, absolutely. One of the key ways that women can strengthen their negotiation power is being prepared and doing the research. This
Mm.
is the number one strategy because when you take the time to prepare and think about the questions that will be asked
Yeah.
from the other side, from the organizational side, understand the questions that you want to ask around salary. And when we talk about salary, it's important to understand total salary. So going
Yes.
beyond
Yes.
base salary and understanding other compensation components like benefits and additional perks that
Mhm.
make up a total salary package, right? So being prepared and understanding how you're practicing your negotiation. So whether it's practicing with a friend or a family member in front of the mirror, or using your phone to record yourself, right?
Yes.
So you can listen back to what you're hearing. Practicing is key, but then also getting and gathering the research. It's important that when you have the data to support your skill set, your experience, and your requirements, And you can use quantifiable metrics as to, the value that you can bring to an organization. Number one is going to enhance your confidence. It is going to allow you to articulate your value in a clear and efficient way, right? It's important that women are assertive in the process. And so when I talk about assertiveness, I want to talk there for just a short minute, because when we talk about assertiveness, we know that assertiveness and women, that creates a negative connotation,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But it's important that when we talk about assertiveness, that means being firm, right? So being firm and understanding your value and your worth, and being able to clearly communicate that, and being firm about that, right? And so when you have these quantifiable metrics, meaning your accomplishments, right? So
Yes.
when we talk about accomplishments, understanding, how you have, saved the company money, how you have, saved the company time, improved efficiencies,
Yes. Yes.
increased revenue, expanded market share. You want to show your value in numbers, is key. But there's a number of ways to do that, but just making sure that you're tracking your accomplishments, so you can really be able to clearly communicate your value and your why, and ask for what you want,
Yeah.
is really going to give you the success that you're looking for, at the bargaining table.
Excellent, excellent. And you talked about having the total package, the total salary package. So, and sometimes people can overlook, or women can overlook the value of some of the additional perks
Right.
that we'd probably tag them. So, what negotiation tactics can be used to request additional benefits, such as, time off or flexible work arrangements, that kind of stuff?
Right, absolutely. So it's important that women understand what are your non-negotiables, right?
Yes.
So when you're out in the job market, or even if you have a headhunter or a search firm approach you to try to coach you to another organization, you need to understand your non-negotiables, right? And it depends on where you are in life, right?
Yeah.
Base
Yeah.
salary is always going to be something that's key, but not necessarily for everyone,
Yeah.
right? So you may be in a position where you have base salary, but you may be receiving long-term incentives, a significant
Mhm.
amount of, and when I talk about long-term incentives, I'm specifically referring to restricted stock options,
Yes. Yeah.
deferred
Yeah.
compensation,
Yeah.
those sort of things, right? That increase your total pay. And you need to understand what those options are. And you tend to get those type of benefits when you're in more senior level roles. But when you're in more senior level roles, or you're going into those roles, you need to understand what they are.
Yeah.
Does the company have them? And what they're offering, and if they are competitive, right, to what you
Yes.
currently have and to what other employers offer, right? So it's important to understand that, and to understand that you need to do your research on a company,
Yeah.
and simply ask
Yes.
the
Yeah.
recruiter and or hiring manager that you're speaking with, right? So understand, there's opportunities for long-term incentives. When we talk about remote work, is always a constant. And so while it was something that was opened up, significantly during the pandemic, a lot of companies are trying to really bring their employees back into the office,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so while it's something that is still top of mind when you're going into another organization, it's something that you should be asking for if it's very important to you.
Mm.
So ask what their flexible working arrangements are, what the opportunities are for remote work,
Mm.
besides salary. Are they open to you working 2 days from home, 3 days from
Yeah.
home?
Yeah.
Also you can have flex schedule. So asking them, do you have like core hours? So like is the core hour say 10 to 3? So you can be
Yeah.
flexible when you come in and when you leave,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Relocation packages, is something else. 401k. Generally, healthcare benefits are pretty standard. So whatever they tend to offer, there's generally not too much movement on that. But if you see that there's something, really creative that, you may be able to go with, there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
asking.
Asking. Yeah.
There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with asking, but it's
Yeah.
really important for women to really understand their non-negotiables. But there are a lot of different things that you can ask for beyond the salary. And
Yeah.
another one is tuition reimbursement, um, getting certifications covered, and
Yeah.
associations covered. So, a lot of times you have certifications and licenses as part of your field. So making sure that those certifications and renewals get covered on an annual basis or whatever the period is. So there's a number of different things, but those are some of the
Yeah.
things that tend to come up.
One of the things I wants to touch on, because those are quite, I suppose, quite financial per se. But women, over 50, maybe going to sister, may have elderly parents. I certainly experienced it where I've had to care for an elderly parent. So for me at that point in time, bear in mind I was already self-employed, so I could work it. But if I was employed, one of the things that would have worked very much for me would have been more flexible arrangements. And this is
Mhm.
becoming far more topical now, I think, as we now get the sandwich generation. So, are there any tips or advice you could offer for women who are maybe specifically looking for this kind of arrangement, more the flexible time off and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. So if you're a woman in a position and you're looking, let's just say you're in your current role and you've been working full time, but you're now looking for something more flexible.
Yeah,
Generally, if you are a top employer who has generally excelled in your role, um, you can generally go to your employer and ask them, explain the situation. If it's particularly if there's a
yeah,
situation going
yeah,
on
yeah,
with because employers tend to know in today's age that many employees are faced with not only having to take care of themselves and their immediate family members like a spouse and the children, but also
mm,
parents, as you just indicated, right?
yeah,
So if you need to go to your employer and ask for a flexible work arrangement, think about the arrangement ahead of time before you go to your employer. And what I mean by that is think about how this is going to benefit and will not disrupt the
yes,
work and organization for your employer, right? So it continues to make it easy for them while still making it easy for you, right?
yeah,
So can you implement, there's certain days you'll be working, certain days off, where you'll be making sure that the work that you're doing is continuing to get done without any interruption. Um, can you come in either early or stay later on certain days? So think through the pattern, and
yes,
you as an individual will know that and should know that because you're
yeah,
already working in the organization,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
when you have that communication with your employer, generally they can, number one, be empathetic to the situation, but understand it because you've helped them to help you by giving them a plan to consider,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then of course listening to them to see what other options they may have. Because
yeah,
remember, we are working with our organizations, we are there to get paid for a service. And yes, things do come up, and there may be other benefit programs that may be available, to you where you can just simply take time off, and also explaining to them the time period as to when you will need this, right?
yeah,
So is it
yeah,
a month? Is it 3 months? Is it six
yeah,
months? And what other
yeah,
benefits would be able to potentially cover you
yeah,
while you're out of
yeah,
the office if you
yeah.
needed to take that time?
Fabulous, fabulous. Now, all going to plan, you've done all your preparation, you're going to have this conversation, but your employer objects, pushes back. So, are there any ways we can prepare for potential pushbacks during the negotiation process?
Yes, absolutely. I always encourage individuals to think about the objections in advance.
Yes.
So understand some of the objections that could come up. One of those could be budget constraints, right? Um, Another one could be they just simply, just the benefit that or the salary that you're offering is just simply just not available,
Yeah.
right? So think about some of the objections in advance and then prepare responses
Yeah.
to those objections. And when you have those objections, understand that employers may come and say that it's not in the budget at this time. So
Yes. Yeah.
ask them for further clarification. So, what you always want to do is be professional
Yeah.
and calm during the negotiation strategy, because going back to misconceptions and biases is that sometimes women can be emotional, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the case. There are tons of professional women who know how to control their emotions and have excellent EQ. Okay. And
Stone
that's
cold.
what I can tell. Okay. So you always want to remain professional and calm. And you can simply ask the question, saying, thank you so much, for that. Can you tell me a little bit more, around the hesitation as to
Mm.
why, why
Mm.
not now?
Mm.
And it's something that you would be able to consider in the future and allow them to respond,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then what you want to do is try to get a time frame as to when they would be able to consider or to
Yes.
reconsider
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
the salary
Yeah.
increase or whatever it is that you're negotiating, right?
Yeah.
So you can then hold them accountable to coming back to that time frame. So if they say, now, so if we're doing it during this time period, maybe they may say spring. Um,
Yes.
so you go back to them, say in March or April, to revisit the conversation. But you say to them after they've provided an explanation, you say, thank you so much for providing that explanation. Would it be okay if I circle back with you back in March or April of
Yeah.
next year so
Yeah.
we can revisit
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
right? And it's important that you are tracking your accomplishments. When you
Yes.
are tracking your accomplishments on a monthly or quarterly basis, you will be able to confidently and clearly articulate your value. And you can show it by referring back to
Yes.
the data because
Yeah.
you've actually tracked it.
Yeah.
Where people can get tripped up in is going to, if you're in an existing role and you're asking for, say, an increase or renegotiating your salary, you don't really have the data to support it in
Yeah.
terms to
Yeah.
show what you've
Yeah.
done over the last year, what you've done
Yeah.
over the previous year.
Yeah.
And what I tell employees often is that you have to help your managers help you. And
Yes.
oftentimes they're just going to remember there's so much on their mind, so
Yeah.
much information, so much work to do, so many employees to manage
Yeah.
that they're only going to remember
Yeah.
potentially the last 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Not going
Yeah.
to remember all of the big accomplishments that occurred in the last 6 months or the
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
up to you to own your career, track your
Yes.
accomplishments so you can communicate the value and the problems that you can solve and how you
Fabulous.
have solved them.
Excellent. I always tell women to have what I call a little hooray file. That's what I call my hooray file. I
I
always just
love
keep it, I always keep it on my desktop and just drop any good email, good news. You never know what it is at the time.
that.
You don't know how important it is, but drop it in there for easy reference for like I say, when it comes to appraisals or
Yes.
negotiations. So that's a great piece of advice. So coming down to our last few questions, Tonya, and I'm talking about women specifically who are a little bit more mature. So, are there any specific negotiation strategies that may be particularly effective for women in this age group, maybe over 50? Because I know a lot of them can be reticent not just to leave their job or just not to rock the boat because of the age they're at, the age they are. But are there any negotiation strategies that are particularly effective for that age group?
The effective strategy is to be confident,
Okay.
and it's going to apply across the board. No
Right.
matter what age, if you don't have the confidence to actually negotiate,
Hmm.
then you won't ask for what you want. It's just
Yeah.
as simple as that.
True. True.
And so, and that goes back to actually doing research and preparing.
Hmm.
So, and I understand that in the workplace, we have multi generations, we have introverts, and we have extroverts. So, when it comes to introverts, they're going to a lot of times be more reserved and shy, and like you said, not wanting or thinking that they will come across as rocking the boat.
Yeah.
But I would share with anyone who feels that way to think about the impact and the loss of salary, and income that you will face if you don't ask for what you want, if you don't
Yes.
negotiate.
Yeah.
So it's important to build the confidence and get the confidence so you can go in and negotiate. And when you prepare and do the research, it will help build the confidence.
Yes.
Practice negotiating. Leverage a network. Ask other colleagues, friends, and families. Those that you aspire, others that you see in your current positions and fields. If you're a part of association boards, speak to other colleagues, because there are many people who are
Yeah.
in high influential positions,
Yeah.
but they're introverts, they're shy, um,
Mm.
they have trouble, with negotiating. They just
Yeah.
simply have
Yeah.
trouble with it. It's
Yeah.
a skill, but it's a skill that can be built, and you can overcome it. It's just a
Excellent.
matter of practicing, preparing, and gathering your research.
Thank you for that. So, on a final note, Tonya, is there any other advice you'd like to offer women in this age group when it comes to salary negotiation?
My final advice is always to do your research and
That's
be
the key
prepared.
thing coming through.
It's to do your research and be prepared. And ask the questions. When you don't know something, ask the questions before you go to the negotiation table. When you are out there in the job search field, you receive an offer. You're not familiar with how to negotiate, or even if you've negotiated, but you've received an offer, don't respond to the first offer.
Yeah.
Don't respond to the first
Yeah.
offer. Take some time, um, because employers expect you to review. They don't expect you to give them an answer, right there on the spot. So don't feel inclined like you have to do that. Take time to compare your offers to any other offers that you have.
Yeah.
Take time to review the offer to make sure it stacks up to that actual organization.
Yeah.
Review it thoroughly to make sure that it truly aligns, and you feel good about the offer. And if you don't, and you're thinking about something else, take time to actually do the
Excellent.
negotiation.
Fantastic.
Because what
Fantastic.
happens is women often will not negotiate. And when they do, sometimes they may receive less. And so they think that the negotiation stops there if they don't receive,
Yes.
or they
Yeah.
don't receive what they're
Yeah.
looking for, instead of
Yeah.
going back to the table again.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel comfortable, before you just either close it out completely or accept an offer that you truly
Yeah.
don't want, ask colleagues and other professionals, friends or family members, to
Yeah.
help review the offer with you, or
Yeah.
seek out a professional.
And I like that. And I always remind women that, with my CEO head on, that my role, my objective as an employee is to get the best candidate for the least amount of money.
Right.
Whereas the employee is coming to the fact, well, I want to work for the best organization for the best amount of money. So we're coming from two different things. And the fact they want to give you an offer means they see the value in you. You just need to show them how much you are worth and have that conversation. So, Tanya, if people want to connect with you or get to know more about what you do, how can they do that?
Sure, they can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm under LaTonia Pouncey, or you can reach out to my firm at TalentMixx Solutions. We are at www.talentmixx, that's TalentMixx.com, or you can send me an email to hello@talentmixx.com.
Fabulous. I'll be sure to put all the links in the show notes. So, Tonya, thank you so much for sharing your expertise today.
Thank you so much for having me, Janice. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.